Joker's original sidekick returns with a vengeance and attempts to kill Harley Quinn and the Gotham City Sirens this week on Comic History. What's up guys, Roman from RNS Entertainment here, and welcome to another episode of Comic History, the weekly series where I explain, retell, and give context to the iconic storylines, origins, and events in the world of comics. In today's video, we are going to be continuing our series on Gotham City Sirens, the 2009 super-villainous team-up book that follows Harley Quinn, Poison Ivy, and Catwoman, along with a huge array of Batman's rogues gallery, written by none other than the legendary Paul Dini, who along with writing Batman the Animated Series for most of Harley Quinn's original appearances, has written multiple comics before, including Gotham City Sirens, which happens to be one of my favorite Batman books of all time, despite never actually having Batman in it. Bruce Wayne Batman anyway. Dick Grayson was Batman at this time, following Batman's death in Final Crisis when he's hit by Darkseid's Omega Sanction, but that's a story for another time. Paul Dini knows these characters in and out, and reading Gotham City Sirens almost feels like each issue is an episode of Batman the Animated Series in comic form. The voices of the characters and the tone of the book overall are that on point as far as accuracy and personality, and the series is a great read right up until the New 52 completely reset most of DC Comics continuity in 2011. I've actually covered the formation and origin of the Sirens in my Gotham City Sirens episode of Comic History, and then continued the series with my Riddle Me This and Harley vs. Hush episodes. So if you want to check out the story so far, make sure to go watch those videos as well. Our story begins right where Harley vs. Hush ended, with the Gotham City Sirens hideout being bombed by an exploding Joker mobile, following what appeared to be a jealous attack on Harley by Joker when she unknowingly went on a date with the villain Hush, who was masquerading publicly as Bruce Wayne at the time. With their new digs quickly going up in flames, Poison Ivy runs to a potted cactus and pets it, making it grow to a huge size before bashing a hole into it, asking for its forgiveness as the sap and moisture inside of the giant cactus quenches all of the flames. Ivy and Selina turn to Harley and say that her psychotic ex-boyfriend has now tried to kill them and almost burn their apartment down, and that they need to take him off the table permanently. Harley says that she had shot the Joker in a lover's quarrel and hadn't seen him since, but Ivy says that she has to know old hideouts or safe houses that he would have used. Eventually, Ivy convinces Harley to give them the address, and before they leave, Catwoman calls in villain safecracker Jenna Duffy, aka the Carpenter, to do renovations to their hideout, further expanding the ongoing idea throughout Gotham City Sirens that there's an entire industry around supervillainy in Gotham, with figures like the Broker and the Carpenter providing services to provide and maintain supervillain lairs, etc. The Sirens track Joker down to the Funshine Novelty Co. costume shop, which Joker had used as a hideout and a place to store his gag and joke weaponry from the past. The Joker, meanwhile, is still acting completely out of character, waking up from being passed out drunk in a few bottles of booze, saying that now that Quinn is dead, he can get back to the basics, putting on his old school makeup and his purple suit with the flower, and saying he wants to make it just like the good old days. As the Sirens scale the building, Harley Quinn says that the fact that the Joker had attacked them with the Joker mobile, which is a holdover from goofy 1960s and before Batman comics, where the Joker was more of a goofy comical character and not even really a serious threat, had been bothering her. Harley goes on to tell them a story about right after she had gotten with the Joker, when she had begged him to show her the Joker mobile and take her out for a spin, just for laughs. And eventually she convinced him. He took her down to where he kept it and all of his other goofy old school gags, and seemed to her like he was even embarrassed by it. When they took the car out for a drive, Joker ended up murdering several random street kids who call it the Wiener Mobile, and then locked the Joker mobile away forever, telling Harley never again. The Sirens burst in to take down the Joker, who at this point is creeping around with an old-timey mobster machine gun and quoting Looney Tunes, which quickly confirms Harley's suspicions that this is not the Joker. When she yells out that something's wrong, Selina and Ivy assume that she's just trying to defend the Joker like she always does, and Ivy wraps her up in binds before she can tell them that he's a fake. The Joker imposter tells Ivy and Catwoman that this isn't how fellow Rogues Gallery members should behave towards each other, and that they had all had such a great time before Harley Quinn had came along. At this point, he loses it, shrieking that he was #1 until Harley Quinn took it all away, and his voice becomes so loud that it shatters the funhouse mirrors and blows the Sirens away. As the imposter removes his Joker makeup and prosthetics, Harley Quinn finally frees herself from Poison Ivy's vines and says that she knew it had to be him, revealing that the Joker imposter is actually Gaggy, a deep dive one-shot character from 1960s Batman continuity that Paul Dini resurrected here to be a one-off Gotham City Sirens villain. Catwoman, and 99% of readers, points out that she's never heard of Gaggy, Joker's original sidekick from the 60s era, which Gaggy repeatedly refers to as the good old days. Gaggy says that Harley Quinn is an insult to the Joker's name and legacy, and opens a trapdoor in the ground to drop Catwoman into a pit of hyenas. Turning to Poison Ivy, Gaggy shoots a toy gun full of Joker venom directly into Ivy's face, but she wafts it further into her nose and says that her blood has countless toxins inside of it, and that Joker venom is nothing to her. Gaggy then pulls out a bubble wand and blows bubbles at Ivy that harden on impact into a suffocating plastic adhesive. With Ivy unable to breathe, Gaggy bashes her in the face with a rubber chicken with a metal pipe inside of it, and turns to Harley Quinn, pulling out a knife. As Gaggy pulls Harley Quinn away, Ivy eventually uses vines to rip the plastic bubble off her face, and finds that Catwoman had managed to befriend the two hyenas, which she points out are closer to cats than dogs. When they pursue Gaggy, he activates another one of Joker's old school gags that causes the walls to slowly push in on Ivy and Selina, who stall the progress using Ivy's plants and make a call to the Carpenter to come get them out. Gaggy brings Harley to what he calls the Joker's inner sanctum, which is the room Harley had mentioned earlier that he kept his old tricks he was eventually too embarrassed to use. Harley says that Gaggy is living in the past, and Gaggy recounts his origin story to her, telling her that originally he had been a trapeze artist and freak show member at Haley's Circus, but had been replaced on the trapeze and relegated to being a clown after Haley had decided to make the circus more family-friendly by adding the Flying Graysons, which of course consist of original Robin, Dick Grayson, and his parents. Gaggy had still been around when the Graysons were murdered, and eventually bashed one of his fellow performers in the face during a show, which somehow caught the attention of the Joker, who approaches Gaggy after the show saying that he's a funny little guy and should work for him. This was the start of campy, goofy crime adventures against the 60s Batman and Robin, which Harley tells Gaggy Joker had said to her were his "what was I thinking" years. Eventually, Batman had locked Joker and Gaggy in jail, where they stayed until one day Joker cracked and brutally murdered 6 other prisoners with a plastic tray in the cafeteria, with no one knowing what had set him off, or if he had just decided he wanted to leave. Following this, the Joker was sent to Arkham, and Gaggy eventually got out of jail years later, returning to Joker's hideout to prepare for their return to the goofy life of crime that he remembered. He returns to find that Harley Quinn had replaced him as Joker's sidekick, and the Joker himself had changed from the old 60s era Joker Gaggy remembered, becoming a more sullen, psychotic, and murderous killer. At this point, Catwoman and Ivy break out of Gaggy's trap with the help of the Carpenter, and Harley sucker punches Gaggy before shoving him face first into a rocket that Ivy ties him down to with vines. Gaggy's nose hits the ignition and the rocket explodes, firing him into the air as the Sirens escape. Carpenter takes the Sirens back to their lair in her van, and Harley asks them if she was as needy and lost as Gaggy when she talked about the Joker, which every single person in the van immediately confirms. Harley says that now she's through with the Joker, but then says that since this wasn't really him, who's to say that if the real Joker does come back, that he wouldn't have changed for the better. With Harley having relapsed into swooning over the Joker, Ivy wraps vines around her mouth to shut her up, which Catwoman thanks her for. The story ends with a horror movie spoof ending showing that Gaggy had survived the rocket crash and would return with a vengeance. He never does. And that wraps up Joker's original sidekick, a 2-issue arc in Gotham City Sirens, and the 4th Siren story we've done so far. From the origin of Gotham City Sirens, to Riddle Me This, to Harley vs. Hush. And I will no doubt cover more of this classic run in the future. Paul Dini is such a perfect writer for any and all Batman characters, and this is definitely the most accurately comic book Harley has ever been portrayed in regards to the core defining version of her character from the iconic Batman the Animated Series. Dini manages to do so much in this book, and in Joker's original sidekick specifically, he manages to tell a story about Harley and the Joker's relationship without even technically having the Joker in it, as he was working within continuity at the time, which had both original Batman Bruce Wayne and the Joker apparently dead. Reviving a goofy 1960s character like Gaggy is in line with the fun and self-referential tone of Gotham City Sirens, and again shows Dini's love and knowledge of Batman continuity. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Comic History, and if you did or learned something new, make sure to hit that like button, leave me a comment below, and subscribe to RNS Entertainment for weekly content. Also, make sure to check out the Gotham City Sirens history, Batman history, and comic history playlist for more great stories like this. Follow all of my social media via the links in the description box below, and if you want to help support me and help me keep making videos, make sure to check out my Patreon at patreon.com/RNS Entertainment. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you all next time.